Big Brother 25 is over, it's in the books, and with it comes over 100 days of a show to talk about. There is so much to get through and so little time, so internet, my name is Peridiam, and here's my review of Big Brother 25. Oh yeah, and I should mention that this video is going to be full of spoilers, so if you haven't watched the season and you don't want to be spoiled, probably just stop watching right about now. Did you stop? You did? Okay, because Jag is the winner, and there you go. The entire season is now ruined. Oh, and look, there you go. Now you're leaving me a nasty comment. Look, I don't know why you thought you could just keep watching without me dropping those bombs, but wow, here we are. Okay, Big Brother 25. The longest season in BB history. 100 days plus the preseason and now the postseason and everything else coming this winter. Normally I break my reviews down into sections to better process everything. We've got the pre-jury, the post-jury, the final outcome, the cast, the twists, and, wait for it, everything in between. But in my latest Survivor review, season 44, I opened the video by saying, time is a flat circle. In that everything we've ever done or will do, we're gonna do over and over and over and over again forever. Because I really only cover 2 shows, and because so many of the seasons are quite similar and happen so often, I start to wonder if in these reviews, I'm just repeating myself over and over and over forever. But then there has to be a distinction between the seasons. They're not all the same, so then what makes a season so much better or worse than its predecessor? The answer is complicated, but in the case of Big Brother, to me, the only real differentiator has always been the cast. If the cast are likable, fun, strategic, dynamic, easy to root for, and even if I'm against them, at least they play their part well, make me laugh, entertain me. If I can say those things, I'm gonna be a happy camper. So, how did I feel about the BB25 cast? Well, I think the likes of Suri and Felicia gave us a lot of content to work with. I've always believed that older players should have a few spots, and they delivered. The first half of the game, the 2 of them were just all over the house, and even when they were reduced to quietly brooding in the comic room as opposed to chaotically brewing in the comic room, I was enjoying watching them play. It's not often you get this older skewing cast, and BB25 is the oldest cast in the history of the show, and yet they were socially controlling a lot and kept me on my toes for at least half the season. And the same goes for Izzy, who was weirdly not in the recap that much, who only made it halfway into the season, but as someone who watched the live feeds 24/7, I cannot give enough kudos to her level of activity. If you just watch the edited episodes and you missed the feeds, let me just say, Izzy was everywhere, constantly gaming, weighing out all options. And the season changed quite dramatically once she left. I also had a soft spot for this derpy alliance that kinda wasn't, but also was in the unreliables between Corey, America, and Jag. They all liked each other as people and became good friends, but were on opposite sides of the house, kinda like Romeo and Juliet for a while, and they just couldn't come together without worrying about jeopardizing their game. Here's the thing, they were all kind of just sloppy or poor players in their own way, and this prevented them from boldly going out on a limb, and by the time the game blew up, they didn't know what to do next. I really enjoyed the 3 of them from the very beginning. Whenever they were around each other, they're dynamic. They were arguably my top 3 favorites all season, outside of my inherent bias for Suri because of Survivor, and even though they were all tragically not doing enough to get ahead, and then also doing too much to blow up their games, I had fun watching them and loved their sense of humor. You also had early game boots like Heisem, who was such a character to watch, another big name that went too soon. His eviction was an unforced error, just bad communication with his alliance, and he knows it, and had he just pumped the brakes a bit, he may have survived. Same for Riley, who was a hot mess for her short stay, crashed and burned, but these 2 felt like players who had a lot more life in them and will never know what could have been. And of course, I'll need to mention Cameron, the renegade who played a pretty poor social game self-admittedly and had to constantly shoot from the hip and drop bombs in hopes of shaking the house up. Cameron certainly paved the way for the season to get a lot bumpier for a lot of the players, and I think having a player like him, a disruptor who attempts to change the status quo and buck the trend, is a valuable asset for any season. Whether you you were rooting for him or against him, he had the ability to clutch win comps and take shots when the entire house was against him, and yet he also got backdoored in a timely manner on several occasions. And he was able to take it like a champ. What I'm trying to say is there's a little something for everyone. And really, that's over half the cast I've talked about in just the past few minutes, with good things to say about them. They all contributed greatly to my experience of this season with the time they had. And that's not even including Matt, Big Brother's first deaf contestant, who made it all the way to the final two, who played as well as he did given the disadvantages he faced every single day. Or Mimi and her constant rants in the storage room about how she just couldn't handle these crazy people. Or Blue giving her future self a lot of great content to cringe at when she's older. I honestly have no opinion on Kirsten or Luke because it feels like they were on the show years ago and I barely remember them. Red was good in the Brokeback bromance with Cameron unintentionally kind of funny way. Jared gave us Dongle, and Miranda Ball is a 34-year-old Australian barrister who, fun fact, is also a DJ on the side. Where do they find these people?
How did your game change for, I'm going to say the better, when you joined the Mafia with Matt and I?
There were so many great little moments on this season from this cast, and I want to remember them before they get lost in the annals of history. You've got Felicia falling in the hot tub in week 1. Remember that? How many times did she break her microphone? Can we get a reminder? When she ran her HOH like a mob boss, or when she face planted into the bed as she was trying to put the mattress back on. Heisem starts a petty feud with Corey because he just didn't like him off rip, and then also nominates Cameron because he's a Hufflepuff. Cam sings A Whole New World to Blue right before he nominates her as she's crying and asking who the hell Jasmine is. Cam also pies the house in what should be the strongest argument for the key wheel to return. If anything, we should get pies to the face forever going forward as an enhancement to the key wheel. This should be how you nominate players going forward. I mean, it kind of fits the tone of the show. The live feeds during the pressure cooker, oh my god, they were fantastic, with Suri, Izzy, Felicia, and Jared just talking so much shit and giving us a fun running commentary while also feeding into their chaotic suspicions. Suri literally sent Jared to his room sulking after all of that went down. And then we also had the riot that was the Unreliables and the younger players all recreating the Jared and Corey argument in the have-not room, and them all laughing so hard at it. It was so good. And one of my favorite quotes from Izzy as she was talking to Cameron in the comic room in a situation where it felt like they were having two different conversations at once. Izzy was ready to spill the blood of her enemies.
I want to fuck them up. That's what I want.
As a big-time Survivor fan, you may have noticed from my channel, seeing Suri turn around in the premiere episode was incredible. I have always wanted a Survivor player to cross over into the Big Brother universe, and seeing this play out and seeing it be Suri was just, you could not have hit the nail firmer on the head if you tried. For the past 6 years, I have talked about her so much, watched her just play the traitors, and here she was in front of my computer screen on the live feeds for potentially 100 days. And for the record, Suri did not disappoint. She was everything I expected and then some. Her reads on the state of the game were always the best of the bunch, and she knew how to just subtly get in good with so many people. She had the older and younger players working for her for the first half of the season, and it was a sight to behold. At the same time, however, she did also overplay her hand a lot, and I believe the biggest contribution to her downfall, other than her own son, was her overestimation of a lot of the cast. It might just be that Suri has so much experience at this point that she kind of just got comfortable assuming everyone else was somewhat up to snuff, but Suri, oh boy, this was a very weak strategic cast, and you were running circles around them, but she also didn't really realize that a lot of the time, and you gave them too much credit. A lot of Suri and Izzy's machinations were born out of assumptions that weren't there. That Bowie was conspiring against them, that Red was more devious than he let on, that half the cast weren't fighting over a handful of brain cells to all just get in a room and decide to work together. As shocking as it sounds, it wasn't happening, and even when it did, it was done poorly, often leaked instantly, and went nowhere fast. And believe it or not, that was a major pro for this season. The game was constantly on shaky ground, and secrets couldn't exist because the first 40 days were a massive web all being run by Suri, with her side pieces in Izzy, Jared, and Felicia keeping up the status quo. Also Corey and Mimi and Red and pretty much like pretty much the entire house. And once the Black Widow's web caught fire, everything fell apart and the season couldn't stabilize fast enough. There was so much chaos for such a sustained period of time, and it kept me glued to the live feeds each and every day. Legit, BB25 was the strongest run of must-watch feeds I have ever experienced for those first 44 days. It was wild. It was Taco Tuesday and Waffle Wednesday all week. All month. It was honestly some of the most consistent entertainment I have had from a season in a while, particularly on the feeds. And that is on top of the fact that the pressure cooker, my favorite competition in BB history, was brought back. They literally did it. And it was just as glorious as it was 20 years ago, with the players dropping out just a few minutes shy of beating the record for the longest comp in the show's history. Are you kidding me? Pulling an all-nighter is not something I have ever done for this show, and I was glad I was able to be there for that one. On the flip side, I will never forget what happened here. I was unfortunately in a part of the world not in front of my computer at my house where I probably should have been. I was traveling during the day 43 argument between Corey and Jared, and I had to live through the spottiest Wi-Fi of my life on the most exciting day of the entire season. That coalescence of just unfortunate circumstances, for me, that was brutal, but I rewatched it all afterward, and there's something in the water come day 43, day 44 that seems to get the players ready to duke it out. Kind of like BB21 with the 6 shooters implosion. Day 43 was the peak of the drama for this season, and it felt like a culmination of all the dicey decisions the cast were making strategically up to this point. The BB25 cast were huge fans of sloppy tactics, like Jared spilling all over Blue about Suri being his mom, or Izzy telling Corey that America had to go next, or Jared just deciding to flaunt the fact that he held the power over Corey for an entire week, or how quickly the Handful Alliance destroyed itself and all started leaking, or how Jag consistently was okay with being a pawn on the block when his entire alliance was ready to vote him out all over again. Yeah, remember that part of the season? Or Corey constantly telling everyone how he was going to be good at mental comps and saying things that were probably true and should have been obvious, I guess, but he made them top of mind for everyone and thus increased his threat level consistently. Also while deciding to throw America under the bus for a couple of weeks. And that's not even half the cast. The list is long and it goes deep. All the way up to day 100, all the way up to the final 2. And, personally, I'm okay with sloppy gameplay. As long as it's entertaining, I don't really care. As long as they're trying their best to win, and they're really actually trying to win, that's all I need. And in the case of day 43, it was top shelf Big Brother content. I needed more of this stuff. And I had hoped that because this cast is so strategically all over the place, we'd probably get lucky and wouldn't have to wait too long. The first half of BB25 was hectic, but I'm here for it, and I was munching popcorn and pulling all-nighters and tuning in each week. Like any good season of Big Brother, there was tension and drama, and the game state felt up in the air. And even after Jared won the wall and evicted Cam, we still had a very satisfying double eviction, at least for me, one of the best ever, with Corey taking out Jared and the aftermath and arguments that ensued from there. And don't get it twisted, there were touches of this in the second half of this season too, such as the Suri and Felicia war at the final 7 and final 5, or Blue's delusions for several weeks about not being the target. Blue, you were the target. You were always the target. America being pissed at Jag and their falling out, or even Cameron going rogue against Jag and Matt and throwing anything at the wall to see what could stick. But just like the Carrot Man Frank from BB14, Cameron was his second coming, and just like Frank, he got outfoxed. He shouldn't have lowered his pistols. But he did, and Jag and Matt took advantage of that, and I gotta say, Jag, a massive congratulations for taking home the crown. Cockadoodle zoom, baby. I know some fans out there will be salty, but you earned it. Clear as day, you out-juked the rest when you needed to, and you did it in your own way. You jagged it up. You didn't always make the moves I thought you might, but either way, I can say I'm happy for you and your family. I do hope people don't come down on you too hard. Just, dislike the game, not the player. It is what it is. You're one of the most unique winners we've ever seen, and you set the new comp record. You set the bar high. Will it be clear next year? Honestly, wouldn't say it's impossible. Gotta find out. Overall, the gameplay this season was questionable, but the feeds were alive and I was having a good time. And while I have held the belief that a perfect season needs only be around 70 days, the fact that we made it to about, day 50 and we were still going strong was a testament to the strength of this cast and their dynamic. And had the season only been 70 something days or even the usual 85, I think we're cooking. Because, as the meme goes, they had me in the first half, not gonna lie. And so this season is over and I have all that to consider, and I've asked myself now, is all of this what it takes to make a good season of Big Brother? There is a lot of good here, and I want to acknowledge it because I do think it's what's necessary to keep the blood pumping and the lights turned on. And, the ratings high so the show can keep going.
Wait a minute, what? Oh, what's happening here?
However, there's a lot I haven't touched upon yet, too. And so let's talk about the negatives, the detractors. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. I'm not gonna spare any expenses here because when I say the downsides really took a toll on my enjoyment of this season, I'm not kidding. And I want to reiterate, I am a super fan of this show and my viewing experience may be different than yours. There's a lot of ways to watch Big Brother and mine is very much from a live feeds perspective with a complimentary episode on the side. If you loved the episodes and you don't agree with me from here on out, feel free to just hold that sentiment tight because internet, my name is Peridiam, and buckle up. We are in for a bumpy ride. Because when I think about what makes a season good, I can tell you that it's not the twists that make Big Brother seasons better, that is for sure. The wacky twists tend to feel the same, and they're often pretty uninspired and broken at worst, irrelevant at best. They often give power to the powerful and are more of the same, like the invisible HOH being able to play in repeat HOH comps. Why? The downside of winning the HOH is you don't get to play consecutively, on top of it being invisible to boot, making your choices anonymous. It's a powerful concept only broken by contradictory implementation when Claire was also a secret HOH on BB23 not but 2 years ago and couldn't compete in the following HOH. The producers told her she had to throw that after she won. Odd choice by the producers here, but there we go. What about the superpower to save a player after they're evicted? Yeah, I know, I get the producers. They wanted to extend the season another week, so this was a way, but did you have to introduce it the same week that Cameron, America, and Mimi stood in the pressure cooker for 14 hours? Did we have to invalidate that result? Why not just keep Kirsten in the game another week, given Luke was removed back in week 1? That one decision would have done so much good, considering what comes next. We even had the double eviction, a great one at that, totally negated. Just had the rug pulled out from underneath us because of Zombie Week. A giant speed bump that felt a bit too much like a brick wall. For those who only watch the episodes, this twist likely went by quicker for you than for those of us who pay attention to the live feeds, but either way, when I say this slowed the game dramatically, oh my god, I mean it. It was almost a different season watching Cam and Jared return just to sit around and watch them play some random competition several times, only to then compete in yet another competition. Can we pop the Jeopardy music on right now? You want to talk about stalling for time? In all of the infinite ways you can extend a season, giving them some cut up shirts and photoshopping their memory wall pictures is the best you could produce? Truly. And given the season is supposedly reported to be planned ahead of time, entirely planned ahead of time, I can't help but feel like the producers have never been more creatively bankrupt than they were right here. How are you a multi-million-dollar production on a major channel and this is the best you can do? A lazy twist with minimal effort. When I watch other shows, I see how they implement their twists and I can't help but feel like I'm watching Big Brother and poking it with a stick and muttering, "Do something," over and over and over, forever. But no, she's dead, dude. Honestly, she's probably been this way for a while, creatively bankrupt. It wasn't just BB25, but after 50 days of reasonable enjoyment, hitting this twist clotheslined my viewing experience. And it did not improve from there, as we had the broken Invisible HOH not but a few weeks away. To sum it up, the TLDW of all this is that the twists this season were absolute garbage. And to be fair, this is par for the course. Big Brother doesn't really do a good twist often. They're not like that. They're not like other shows. I did kind of like the Nether Gorgon in the first week and how players were being selected to enter the Nether region, heyo, and miss out on key events for the week. It created this strange back and forth safety chain when first impressions were forming, which honestly isn't half bad. More of this, producers. And man, would it be so good and so easy to just stop the video right there and say, that's where the buck stops. Those were all the negatives. We're all good. We're all clear from here. But I have got more issues with BB25 than just these twists. Like, say, Cirie having a secret relationship in the house with her son Jared. The most powerful secret advantage since Paul's friendship bracelets, or the secret relationship in Big Brother 9, if you can remember that. Cirie is Cirie, a 4-time Survivor legend and Traitors winner. She was able to skip the first night comps, and she had her son in the game too. If I were to sit here right now and tell you that I love Cirie so much, it doesn't matter about the integrity of the show or the game whatsoever, my God, I would be doing the worst possible job. I would be lying to all of you right now. To say this twist wasn't busted and incredibly unfair is just not the case. And look, there's cognitive dissonance here for sure, because it's Cirie. I love Cirie, and so many fans love Cirie. It is tough to remove my bias from the situation and recognize how unfair it is. And I know I can hear it right now. Big Brother isn't always fair, but then I also can't say that I will support it when it isn't. It was a blessing to be able to watch her for 93 days, but did we need Jared too? Did we need the dongle of it all? When you mix veteran stars like Cirie or Paul or the myriad of them on 13, 14, 18, to me, it's just a cheap way for the producers to get away with leaning into the fans' biases. Because the community is terrible at holding itself accountable for double standards and would rather the producers put their hand on the scale in favor of their faves than create an equitable and fair competition for all. And if we're talking about fairness, can we mention Jared not getting ejected for using the R word, a word on the banned list that players are told ahead of time by producers to not say, lest they be subjected to being pulled from the game? Years ago, a zero tolerance policy was enacted, and when Luke crossed that line in week 1, zero tolerance was enforced. I completely stand behind their decision to remove Luke, but to then not do the same for Jared, what does zero tolerance mean at that point? Is this just nepotism? By that same measure, why of the 5 new competitions you introduced this season, did one of them have to be all about listening for clues to win the veto when you cast a deaf person to play? And why are you blocking the live feeds whenever the event is discussed? Why all of a sudden are the times being hidden for the comps in the episodes when in any previous season they were all shown? Why was a cleverly timed article dropped right before the episode about how much the producers are going out of their way to accommodate for Matt? If you want to know the honest answer, it's because Matt timed out because it's a competition about hearing and they knew it would be a terrible look. How absurd does one have to be to greenlight this idea for a competition knowing what is likely to happen? Again, I've talked about how production feels mismanaged and lacking for good ideas, and this is just another example. To take it all one step further and drive home this feeling of creative bankruptcy, I began to notice in the second half of the season how most of the competitions were all the same. They were either all repeats from past years or even just repeats of the same exact skill set needed to win them. Run back and forth and reorder the pictures based on the details. Run back and forth and match the pictures based on the details. Zip line over and over to find the details. Shockingly, the same person won all these competitions, and so I wondered, how often do the producers reuse the same comps, just with like a new coat of paint? How many new comps are introduced each season anyway? Are all of these comps old and I just haven't noticed? To answer these questions, I decided to audit the entire history of the show, every HOH and POV competition from Big Brother 2 all the way to present day, to see how often new comps are included in a season and how many are reused. And what I found is not that the show is trending in a lazy direction, it's just how staggeringly poor the state of the comp design is when you take a bird's eye view. In the past 10 years, from Big Brother 16 to present day, over 80% of all competitions are crusty, musty, and dusty. They are old. They are repeats. They are incredibly predictable, and really, it's been this way since Big Brother 12. The drop-off is stark with that season compared to what came before, but it's even worse today because there are so many more competitions being used, especially over 100 days, the longest season ever, and through all of that, only 5 in 33 comps are new. Only 5. The second worst ratio overall after BB17. And when a vast majority of those comps involve the same skill set, no matter what, they're all speed related in some way, whether it's building a puzzle or running through an obstacle course or over a balance beam or God forbid matching details on pictures, the producers must find a way to make the competitions all the same. It always comes back to being who is the fastest. Not who buzzed in the least to get it right, but who got it the fastest regardless of how many times they got it wrong. I noticed this trend years ago and mentioned it briefly in my review of Big Brother 23 2 years ago, how it all feels so predictable. I could chart out the most likely future comps based on probability of them showing up, even down to the week they will likely be on the season, because we've all seen it before. Even the players in the house on the feeds are expecting them, and they know the strategies to beat them. Expect the unexpected felt like a bad joke, and now, after writing down every comp for the past 24 seasons, I can tell you it is beyond a bad joke. It's a dead joke. It's just reality. I can also tell you that if you're going to be on BB26 or BB27 or really any future season until the producers decide to reinvigorate this stale formula, to expect the guaranteed staples of all the comps you are currently looking at on your screen. All of these were old comps from just this one season, and I guarantee you are going to see almost all of them all over again next year. But maybe they'll put Jasmine's face on the wall this time instead of Josh's. A few years ago, I made several videos charting the greatest comp beasts in the history of Big Brother, and I will just say there is a reason all of the greatest comp beasts are from the past 10 seasons. Well, except for Janelle. First, because these players are all really good at these competitions, but also second, because they keep reusing the exact same comps that reward the same skills, so of course the same kinds of people are all going to win them. At first it was impressive to me, but now I'm starting to look at the forest and realize it's just to be expected. Like how Jag broke the most comp wins in a season right after Michael tied it. That's the show as it stands today because that's the show the producers have likely inadvertently designed in the past decade out of their lack of desire to do anything else. Heaven forbid. Big Brother, if I wanted to watch the challenge, I'd watch the challenge. I said this years ago and decided just to not repeat myself year after year because what are we talking about? Time is a flat circle, but the show needs to wipe the slate and try new competitions. It's not that I'm rooting against Jag. I was doing the opposite all season, or against Michael, Turner, Monty, Kylan, X, Cody, Tyler, Casey, Paul, Victor, the list goes on. It's that variety is the spice of life, and Big Brother just feels stale and sad, and it makes me feel like all of us fans have no standards for what we accept as good or watchable. Or at least that's just how I feel as one fan. But what makes this even worse is when I look at the older seasons and how the producers did create new ways season after season for 10 straight seasons for power to be delineated, for unique twists that weren't rehashed or, for the most part, poorly implemented, I can't help but feel like I'm in an asylum, and every other fan watching the show is collectively lost in the sauce with me and has short-term memory loss and is amused by just shiny things like Suri being on the screen or Cam buying someone in the face, which I will say I did enjoy. Maybe I'm overestimating what it takes for the producers to do something, but they're so easy to think up, these new comps. There's a million other reality shows out there with different ideas. You can just lazily copy if you need to. Why not try to make a better show? Is it really just complacency because the dollars are there either way? And then you combine the repetitive comps with the same people winning them, how from day 23 to day 65, there were 42 straight days of either Cameron or Jared as HOH. Yeah, we had a Corey double and the zombie week, but it's tough for me to look at that fact and think, that's a recipe for success, I need more of that. But that is what we got, with only Bowie, Matt, and Jag winning out the rest of the season, no resistance, and the gameplay devolving into a team-based sport where it was clear several players were no longer interested in winning, particularly Bowie, and they didn't really care either. And to make it worse, Bowie knew she was playing to lose, and she was happy tanking everyone else's game, as well as her own, with a big old cheeky grin on her face as she went down with that ship. Never mind the self-righteousness, I hate that word, of the Mafia Alliance, deeming themselves the good people of the house. If you only watched the episodes, you wouldn't have seen this. Because they could win the most carnival games and thus held all the power against senior citizens. And that is a referential joke to what Sri and Felicia were saying. If you didn't watch the feeds, you might not have noticed, but there was a reason a lot of the online sentiment for this alliance just isn't there. It's because they were all mediocre to bad players who lacked enough self-awareness to realize what makes good Big Brother and also what makes other people like you. When it came to the feeds, they were just so not telegenic. Call it immaturity, call it ego, call it letting the power get to your head, call it cowardice, call it all of those things. I'll just call it simply not fun. And as somebody who's been watching the feed since 2010 every single year, it is not the norm for those who think this might be. It happens, and it also happens to be in some of my least favorite seasons. The questionable comments about women from Matt and Red and Cam and Jared, especially toward America, how Jag's victim mentality brought out the worst in him, how Bowie had no original thoughts of her own, how Blue was incredibly vindictive and delusional, and if I never have to hear her call herself a girl's girl one more time, it'll be too soon. Blue, look in the mirror, I beg of you. Oh, and Suri, get your child. He tanked your game. Everything about the second half of BB25 could best be described as uninspired. It left me wanting to watch something else. And for many weeks I did, something I rarely do, only the likes of BB22 or 19 were able to do to me. I got bored and audited the entire show. I realized that BB25 has the most amount of unanimous votes in 25 seasons, that's a fun fact, and that it also has the least amount of dissenting votes of any season. Yeah, okay, so this is a wild stat. Of the 107 votes cast, only 4 went against the grain, less than 4%, beating out both Big Brother 12 and 16, which sat at 6%. And BB12 only had like 60 votes cast anyway. It was like half as many. And those are the only seasons in the single digits. It's very much not the norm to be that low. And boy, did I feel it this year. And because of how unanimous and groupthink the cast was, the producers had to end episodes with constant cliffhangers just to keep you interested in finding out what happens next because, well, the speculation was going to be more interesting than what actually was about to happen next. It just wasn't interesting enough on its own. You can only stitch together so many failed vote flip segments before I'm sufficiently underwhelmed. Producers, instead of leaning on the narrative of will the votes flip, and then they don't, ever, for 100 days, you can instead lean on why the votes didn't flip, just how wildly complex these decisions were so that the audience can better appreciate how the players got here. Even the edit of the episodes was leaving me bored. To me, what separates this season from the past few, of which I was higher on, is the overall narrative week to week and the eventual outcome in the end. It's not just about the destination, because I am sincerely, truly happy that Jag won, I really am, but also the journey to get there. I don't want one note that keeps getting played every week. I will just say this again because it needs to be repeated. Big Brother is at its best when the pendulum of power swings and the events are unpredictable, like how Riley was HOH and then evicted the next week, or how Heisem was HOH and then evicted the next week by his own alliance. How Cameron won HOH unexpectedly, the one person nobody in the house wanted to see hold power, and he had the key. And he took a massive shot and it landed. This is all Big Brother at its best. If the cast is good enough, circumstances like this should yield good results. Even Jared, when his back was against the wall, literally, he pulled it out and he won. And then was evicted the next week. These are moments you can't write, you can't script, because they're just all over the place and unpredictable. They're suspenseful and dramatic. How Red was evicted because he was getting closer to his best buddy in the house after being lied to, oh my gosh. How Jag constantly had to get the 7 in a room to just get all on the same page over and over and over and over. Jag, stop trying to make the 7 happen. It's never gonna happen. Blue literally suggested you as a pawn in the HOH room before you went up. I can't believe that even happened, and that I was watching it live on the feeds, and yet it was hilarious and kind of pathetic. One of my favorite seasons is Big Brother 6, and it's not because of the ultimate outcome. It's the journey that we had to get there. The same goes for Big Brother 10, the same goes for Big Brother 7, the same goes for Big Brother 24. These are the seasons where I felt like the most was up in the air, Almost anything could happen any given time. I could tell you something entertaining and impactful and fun that is worth watching just for that week alone in any of these seasons. Well, for the most part, not every single day. And that brings me to BB25, and of course how day 43 unfolded and the events around that. Jared threw that Hail Mary with his lie and it backfired, but good on him for trying. And Corey was on the brink and ready to cut ties, and he did. Nobody puts day 43 in a corner. Oh yeah, by the way, I was rooting for Corey in America all season as well, on top of Jag, on top of Suri. America really reminded me of Survivor Cook Island's Parvati, and Suri even compared her to Parvati just a bit, although not in the best light. And if you know me, you know that's nothing but a compliment either way. All of these moments that I've talked about in this review video from Big Brother 25 help shape a wild, unpredictable narrative. At times, the first half of BB25 felt a bit heavy-handed given how much control Suri had. There was a lot of chaos, but not a lot of consequences for her overplay. I did wonder if Suri and Jared and Izzy's messiness might catch up to them, and a part of me hoped that it would for the sake of variety, but I had no idea, and I promise you I wouldn't have wished this upon a star if I had it all over again, what it would mean with Izzy out of the game and the competitions becoming so one-sided for 50 straight days. And honestly, I kind of kicked myself for that because the proof has been in the pudding after I did this audit. It should have been expected. I just decided to put my head in the sand and pretend it wasn't going to happen. A major reason why I ranked BB24 so high last year is because the story constantly shifted and was unpredictable. Power swapped often and the villains got their comeuppance. Every week had something going for it. The stakes felt real, they felt personal, whereas all throughout BB25, the stakes felt static. The suspense of the waffling votes was there, but it was always the same tune. And then it literally became the same from the moment Zombie Week happened to the finale. Nothing changed, everything was expected, and I can't say I was having a great time with how bad the gameplay was from everyone and how dislikable a lot of the cast became. And like, rock, paper, scissors in the final three. Guys, come on, be serious. BB25 showed me what happens when the trend isn't bucked and the less than stellar players hold court. It showed me all the usual flaws modern Big Brother tends to have, even in strong, well-received seasons like BB20, where the game falls apart because the equity isn't there. And per my research, it hasn't been there for a while, and so it falls to a strong cast making up for it, or just falling backwards into a good show in spite of the producers, not because of them. Even after recent lows like BB19, 21, and 22, I still like Big Brother and continue to advocate for it because the game is phenomenal at showing us our humanity in a gamified, mostly harmless manner with such highs and lows that just can't be written beforehand. That part only enhances the experience. And it's why I fell in love with the show back in 2010 with Big Brother 12, my first season, which also ushered in a massive drop-off in comp creativity. I had no idea it was that bad at the time. And I suspect most other fans today, just like me back then, won't realize that either. Probably ever. At one point, I had Big Brother 25 ranked in my top 10 seasons, and possibly even higher, but I came back down to earth, and after all is said and done, after 25 seasons, I have got it ranked somewhere in the lower half, currently at 18th. I was just ready for it to be over. But I've said my piece, all 6,200 words of it. I want to turn it to you now and ask, what do you think about this season? Where does it rank for you amongst the seasons you've watched? Were you happy with the outcome? Who were your favorite players? And does anyone happen to have any ideas on what the producers can do to make the game fairer in the future to make the show more fun to watch? I just look at international seasons of Big Brother and I feel like they do so much every week that's just so wacky and different. It really shakes things up. And Big Brother has just so much dead air and downtime. In the end, I want to give a big thanks to my patrons for making it all 100 days and still sticking it out with me. This season was a marathon and it's almost the new year. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to go outside and touch snow. Why is snow on the ground? Every once in a while. And I will see you in the next one once I come back inside because it's cold out there, and sit down to watch Big Brother Reindeer Games. Does this even qualify as Big Brother?
It's gotta be in here somewhere. Big Brother never throws anything out.
They sure don't. Thanks for the PTSD.
Let's fix this mess.
Clean up on aisle BB25.
We did it.
Did it!
That's odd.
Oh, crap.
Christmas season comes around and I'm into it. Kentucky sweater parties.
The what?
Santa was 8 feet tall. Yeah, we bought the big one. Have y'all had peppermint bark?
Peppermint what?
Bark.
Bark? He said he balls out for Christmas.
We bought every color of icing.
Oh my gosh, there are reindeer.
Merry Christmas, Corey.
Pinch me, is this real life? Honestly, I'm losing focus over here. I've always wanted to go to the North Pole, make toys all day, sing Christmas songs. I mean, what a life.
Like when you get into the Christmas spirit, there is literally nothing happier than that.
It's time for America's vote.
I vote to evict Jack.
Jag, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Literally off.
Perfect.